Hey, welcome back to That's What He Said. I'm your host, Natalie, and this is a podcast about dating. Before you watch, make sure you subscribe, follow, like, comment, rate, review, and share the show. Let's find out what he said.
We're just Sally sells seashells by the seashore. Sally sells seashells by the seashore. I'm ready. You go ahead. Warm it up.
Not slurring.
Not at all. See? Sally sells seashells by the seashore.
That's pretty good, actually.
Thank you. Sally sells seashells by the seashore. That's what I do before every call. Master. Go ahead.
No, I'm going to try. Everybody cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers to...
Cheers. What are we cheersing to?
Sorry. That's what he said.
Oh,
cheers.
yeah. It's love. Dudes. Dudes.
To love.
I'm Austin. It's good to meet you, all you digital people out there. I'm 35. I'm a father recently, 6 months in. Stoked. Zoe, best job I've ever had. I'm Mary's husband, most importantly.
Where are you from?
Grew up in California, out here. Beautiful. Met Mary in Texas. Moved out there after going to school in USC for a couple of years. Moved out to Dallas. Met my Southern belle, brought her back with me. What else? What else do you guys want to know? I'm in sales. That's what I do for work. We've got 2 dogs, a golden retriever and a golden doodle,
They
somewhere
could not
around
care
here.
less. You can't see
Tried to
them,
lure
but
them in, they couldn't.
They might join us later.
What else? I'm a Libra. I don't know. What else y'all want to know?
What's an interesting fact about you?
Interesting fact. I have a twin. She's a sister.
I always forget that you have a twin.
I know.
Like, I know Katie's your
I know.
sister, but
I know.
I don't ever think
And
about
my
that.
favorite thing about you is you've never asked, are we identical? As soon as I say twin. That's my second.
Well, I already know that you're
My
not.
second fun fact is I've been asked after people hear I have a twin sister over 1,000 times, are you identical? And it's just
Shocking.
every time.
Yeah.
Every time.
You're like,
Fun fact.
People
No.
are not as smart as
Common sense is not very common.
It's not a... Mary, introduce yourself. Where are you from?
I'm Mary. I am from Fayetteville, Arkansas.
Woo pig.
Woo pig.
Woo pig.
That's where I met Natalie. So I went to the University of Arkansas. I moved to Dallas, met Austin, went to nursing school. We got engaged and married, and then we moved out here to California. And now, like Austin said, we have a daughter. I work in functional medicine. My parents are divorced, and my dad is remarried. Yeah.
Deal queen.
Yes, wait, plug your Poshmark.
Seriously.
Oh yeah, on Trend Finds.
How do you find that on Poshmark? Is it like a
You
username?
search, yeah,
Okay, what's the name?
on Trend Finds. I resell thrifted, mainly women's clothing, and I've been doing it basically since Austin and I met. It was like this random idea I had on an afternoon, and I ran with it, and so I guess like 7 years.
What year was that y'all met?
2016.
Okay.
Crazy.
So, and she's pretty good at it. She's humble, but she's
Dude, I was just that you are
talk her up. Your
that
best
it's
friend.
it's
Hear from you.
spectacular. She's found Louis Vuittons, any tons apparently. She crushes. Like, it's crazy the stuff she finds.
I know.
And we live in a super bougie area, so the Goodwills are popping, and like all the stuff she gets, it's like new with tags. It's bougie, rich
Tags.
women lose it in their closets. Like,
Yeah.
it's unreal.
What's the best find that you've ever found?
She just sold it. Just did it.
No,
the
my
black
best-
dress.
No. Black dress was my best
It
flip.
has to be something you gave.
My best
$840 type of flip
My best find.
on a single piece of clothing.
My best find was a pair of Chanel espadrilles.
Oh. So today our topic is about commitment. So you guys are obviously committed.
Nailed it.
You got married 4 years ago, right before the
Yeah,
pandemic.
4 years ago. Indeed.
Just
Dodge
in the
that
nick of
bullet.
time, literally.
Whew. Would not have wanted to plan a wedding a second time.
The most amazing wedding too.
Spectacular. All her. All her.
The topic question is, why are men afraid of commitment? So before we get into that, tell us a little bit about each of your dating history up until you met each other. So Austin,
Mm-hmm.
you can start just a brief kind of who you were before you met Mary and what your dating life was like.
Yeah,
'Cause you are older. How old are you?
35.
35.
Yeah, my dating history was kind of interesting. I didn't really start like dating until college, honestly. In high school I had crushes. I had, girls that I was definitely into and interested in, but it's not like I wasn't aware of them or into them. It's just like dating wasn't really like a priority for me. I was more focused on like hanging with the boys and playing football and trying to get into SC and all that sort of stuff. So pre-Mare, I dated five girls, I think. Because I know we've talked about this. I think it was like 5 girls, and most of them were like longer term stuff, like more than a year type relationships. And interestingly, it's funny. I was thinking about like this because I figured we might go down this path, but there was a lot of long distance relationships in there, which was weird. And like before Mare, the previous 3 girls I dated were distance, and I don't know why that was. Like I've like done like a lot of self reflection on that. Like I don't know if it allowed me to like still kind of have my own single life while also being in a relationship, so you get like the safety of it while also you still kind of get your own time. There's probably
I relate to that.
there's probably something there. But anyways, so yeah, I didn't date that much, but I definitely like dated different types and different styles and like kind of like got a feel for what I was looking for. And
Was there ever someone that you thought, oh,
Yeah.
I'm gonna marry her?
yeah, totally. Yeah, there was my college girlfriend. There was a lot of talk about that for a long time, that we were going to get married. I dated this girl when I was early in Dallas that I was pretty into, that it never really like turned anything. It kind of always just stayed like a friends with benefits type of situation almost. So yeah, like there was definitely those feelings, but nothing ever like really like materialized,
Yeah.
Nothing ever really like was, I guess, like got to that same level that Mary did.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. What about you, Mary?
So I had 2 like long-term relationships before I met Austin, and then I dated like a little bit here and there in between those. But overall, I feel like in my dating past, I would like go on a date or like meet someone, and very quickly I was able to be like, okay, this is someone I want to really get to know and spend a lot of time with, or maybe just not going to be someone for me.
Yeah.
So I had 2 long-term relationships. Both were like 4 or 5 years-ish. And then I met Austin. So
Yeah. You
No
were
other
pretty
questions?
decisive. I feel like for as long as I've known you, you were never like caught up on someone that you shouldn't have been.
yeah,
Like you either knew it was going to be nothing, like just
Yeah.
something super short and casual, or
Yeah.
you were committed for a long time.
yeah, I would agree.
So describe the dynamic of your relationship now, Austin. Well, actually, first let's back up. Mary, what has been the timeline of your and Austin's relationship? I know you
Like-
said y'all met in 2016.
Yeah, so we met in 2016. We were, I don't know, COVID years. Like, I'll make all of it so blurry.
How'd
But
you guys meet?
we met at work.
Fishing off the company pier.
Yeah, we met at work.
Somebody was
Highly-
somebody's boss. I
Highly
think.
recommend. No, there was never a boss. There was a little bit of a seniority for sure.
Okay, seniority.
For sure.
Not like a direct report boss,
Oh, okay.
but definitely was in like a higher level than I was. He'd also been at the company for what, like
Hot
6 years?
minute.
About how long was it before you guys were like official?
It wasn't until after Mare left, honestly, that we were official.
How
After
many
you
months
left.
were you there?
She was there like
7
just
months.
under 7?
7 months.
Was it 7? So you left in February?
Mm-hmm.
So it was before that then. We were probably official. We were actually, I remember it was December 18th. That's what we decided was our official
It
date
had been
because
about 6 months.
we were going to
since you met.
celebrate our anniversary. Yep,
Yeah.
on that date. That was
Okay.
December 18th.
Okay.
So yeah, we started. Mare is underselling it. because she was quite hard to land initially because she was just coming out of and
Okay. Can we restart that?
she was just coming out of a relationship and she was not available and made that abundantly clear because it was kind of funny. We went to a Halloween party. This is how our entire us started, was at a Halloween party. And we didn't go together. We were just going like to our friend Ravi and Tara's Halloween party. And I rolled up, I think by myself. Yeah, because I was just going to hang out with Rav. And Mary was there. And the way my company works, senior people has junior people report to them. And so Ravi's junior person was Mary's mentor. And so Mary was there. And someone was trying to stir up some ish and was like, Mary, why are you like all over Austin? Like, right? Or was it I was trying to get with you? It was something like that, right? Like one of us was, maybe both of us. And it was like, blah,
People
blah, blah.
were like trying to stir
Inappropriate.
the pot.
Yeah, people were stirring the pot.
Okay.
And we really we had sat across each other and we had like hit it off instantly for like a personality perspective. Like it was Mare, myself, and our buddy Shri. It was like the tripod. And we were all just like going back and forth. Mare was just laughing at us the whole time. And she's obviously super hot. And I was like, ooh. But I knew that she was kind of coming off something. So she was, don't touch, let her deal with it. And anyways, so at this party, people are like, oh man, they're together. And we both, because we're both stubborn, hard-headed assholes sometimes, we're like, oh, I'll be damned. Like, people are going to say that. Well, all right, let's do the crime let's do the crime if we're going to do the time. Exactly. We were doing the time and we're like, we're going to do the crime then. And so, at least that's what I said. And so then I proceeded to ask Mary out twice, both dog park dates, because they're casual, but it's also intimate. Highly recommend dog park dates.
Stark.
Yeah, Stark and Sadie loved each other. They were going to go play. It would have been great. She stood me up on both dates. Stood me up. Said yes and no showed.
I didn't know that.
100%. No showed, ghosted, nothing. Like it was tough. And
one of the dates
I do not condone that behavior.
No, we do not condone that behavior.
To be clear, I didn't just like ghost no show. I texted like I can't do it.
Not before. I had already gotten to the dog park when I received those notes.
I was like panicking.
Anyways,
he was very understanding.
The moral of the story was I had to keep grinding, and it was right before Thanksgiving.
There was a pursuit. I like that.
Absolutely, there was a pursuit.
Okay.
It was right before Thanksgiving, and Mary came over, and she was out and about, and I'm an excellent cook, as you know, and I don't need any help cooking. And Mary struggles in the kitchen department.
So bad.
She's so bad.
It's so bad.
She's so bad. No. And so I called her. I was like, hey, I'm making sweet potatoes for our company Thanksgiving potluck. I could use some help. I have no idea what I'm doing. And Mare, I think she'd had at least a beer or two. So her walls were dropped. And finally she was like, sure, like I'll come help you cook. And then from there, it was history, right?
Done deal after that.
Pretty much. Yep.
What is the dynamic of your relationship now, Austin? How would you describe that?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's so much more. I don't know. It's deeper, like on every level. I mean, back then, there was a lot of chemistry. There was a lot of fun. There was a lot of, just making out. Like, there was just that. Like, it was kind of the honeymoon phase, right?
Yeah.
Now, I mean, we've been through some valleys together. And that definitely left wounds. But it's also like wounds that we share together, which makes us a lot closer because of it, Yeah. And it's like truly like there's things that only Mary and I have experienced together. And so it's like just more intense. you know?
What's like the day-to-day dynamic? Are you crying?
Yes.
You need to lock it up.
I can't.
We're like 10 minutes in, maybe.
You haven't even had
You've
a
said
break.
like 3 words. Like, lock it up.
That was sweet.
Yeah, it was. I cried. Continue.
So, as far as the dynamic, obviously I know you guys really well, but just to give people sort of a layout of like the structure of your relationship.
Yeah.
Y'all started off, Mary was, I would say, working under you. I thought she worked like technically for you, but I guess that's not the case.
Kind of parallel.
You're the primary provider financially, primary breadwinner. Mary also works. Y'all just had a baby, so she's mostly watching the baby when you're working / she's working from home. I personally would definitely describe Austin as a leader. I mean, you have a leadership personality without a doubt, anybody who knows you. And because we talked about this several episodes back, I just want to touch on the money aspect in a marriage and in a relationship. How important do you think this is when you're dating or choosing someone to date?
I think it's super important.
Do you think that men should try to seek a woman who makes less than them?
No, I don't at all. At
don't?
all. No.
Okay.
I don't think it's important that a man or woman makes, I don't think it matters at all who makes more money. My uncle Jerry, he's one of the greatest men I know, and his wife is a mega successful attorney. And when they were both our age, they had 2 girls, and my uncle, I would say, arguably, because he's brilliant. He went to USC. He played water polo there. He's a geologist. He's a brainiac. Like, he is brilliant. He's as smart as they come. But he made the decision to stay at home to raise their daughters. And
Really?
I think that is like one of the coolest things ever. Like, as a dude, like, I think dudes are inherently riddled with ego, and like society just makes it worse and worse and worse.
Yeah.
So for him to be able to put all of that aside and raise his daughters, like, that's incredible. Like, I truly think that's awesome. And so anyways, that's totally beside the point, but I don't think it matters at all who makes the money. I think what matters is that you view money the same way. Like, you agree on it, whether you're both crazy money motivated, whether you both just view it as a tool. Do you both agree on tithing? Do you both, like, how do you use it? How do you envision it? Do you save? Do you spend? Like, I think it's way more important you find somebody who is like-minded with you on how to go about, like, money's a tool. That's all it is. It's just a tool. And if you can find somebody who's like-minded there, I think that is a key critical element for success. Because, like, I tell you what, like, we've been together where money's great, we've been together where money's awful, and if we aren't on the same page with that, and Mary's spending on stuff that I don't agree with, or I'm spending on stuff that she doesn't agree with, dude, that's a super quick path to conflict, and it
So-
makes things hard.
For people who are dating or guys who are
Yeah.
pursuing women, that's, I think, based on what you're saying, a lot of guys are messing up there because, like you said, guys are very ego-driven naturally. A lot of people are, but particularly men.
Yeah.
If you were to tell a guy that's not the most important thing, that's not what you should be focused on or threatened by,
Yep.
then how else can that man feel like he is going to be able to lead this woman from point A to point B being full commitment and
Like, if
marriage and
he's
into
not the
marriage?
breadwinner, how can he be the leader? Is
Yeah.
that what you're asking?
Yeah.
I mean, I think there's so many other ways to lead, and if you're leading purely by money, then I would say you're not a leader at all, honestly. Like, if you need a certain number in your bank account to feel like a big man, dude, go check your walk. Like, no offense, but like, go like do some soul searching and maybe think about, why is money so important to you? That's my personal opinion. That's how my dad raised me. That's how my papa raised me. And that's what I think is right. But like, you can lead a woman spiritually. You can lead her emotionally. You can lead her intellectually. You can lead her physically. Like, you can lead a relationship in so many other ways. And yeah, money's an underwriting current under all of them because it's a tool to accomplish a lot of those things. But honestly, that's just, I feel like maybe this is, I was raised by some very strong women. I married a very strong woman. I'm surrounded by a lot of strong women. So maybe that's me talking, but I just feel like as a dude, if that's what you're basing your worth on, like that's what happens when you don't have the money. Like, so what are you going to do? Is that like all your value you bring to your woman?
Right, yeah.
Is money? Like, that's sad. If that's all you have to bring, then go.
So a lot of guys who are single and they're in the bachelor lifestyle, money is one of, if not the main driver of that life. So they're all about,
Yeah.
let's
That's
get
the
this
ego.
bread, let's make money,
Yeah.
The hustle, climb
I've been
the
there.
ladder.
Yeah, been there.
And then on the weekends you just enjoy this
Party.
kingdom that you're building, party, spend,
Yep.
whatever it is that you do to spend money, showboat. So what made you want to leave that lifestyle, the bachelor lifestyle, and want to get married?
I was a pretty crappy bachelor. Like I never really did that. Like my it's probably not super relatable, but like my splurges were going and golfing with the boys. Like I never.
That's extremely relatable. So many
Okay,
guys,
so cool. So like what made me put aside golfing with the boys for a life of marriage and a baby? I had a moment of clarity. I was hanging out with this girl in Dallas, and I'm an emotional dude, shocker. And I'm always the one to catch feels first in a relationship, Mary included, exhibit A. And it's hanging out with this girl, and it was just kind of casual. And it was the closest thing I ever had to just kind of like a hooking up buddy and all that stuff. And I caught feels, and I was like, hey, let's do this thing. And she wasn't. And man, it was like a blip on the radar. It's funny. It was like a couple of months, like nothing. It was it was never, I wouldn't even call it a relationship. But it had like a crazy impact on me, because in that moment I was like, I'm done with this. Like, I'm done dating.
because you got hurt.
It wasn't that I got hurt, because I wasn't even that hurt. Like, I wasn't even really like head over heels for her the way I was ended up being for Mary. It was more of like, I just had a moment of clarity. That's all I can describe it as. And I felt like I was done with that part of my life. I was tired of just chasing the temporary whatever it was. I was ready for like someone to live with, like to do life with, versus someone like just to like the dating scene. I was tired of the dating scene, honestly. I really was ready to settle down. I was ready to find the person. I was ready to start having kids. Like I have known from day, I don't know, 5 years old, that I wanted to be like my dad. I wanted to be a dad like my dad. Like, that's what I've always wanted to do. Like, in my heart of hearts, I've never really cared about my career. Like, I enjoy my job now, but I don't love it, because I love my job as a dad. I love my job as a husband to Mary. Like, I love my job, like, being like in my family. So I think that I'm kind of, I don't know, different than that, because I always wanted that. I wanted that since I was in college. It just, I hadn't found the right woman. It took me a lot longer than I thought it would. But yeah, I just had this moment of clarity where I was ready to, the companionship, the partnership, I want to do this with somebody. I was tired of always being by myself. I don't know,
It sounds like you were kind of like, you had this light bulb moment that what you were doing, the way you had been living, was not.
It wasn't fulfilling.
It wasn't fulfilling.
Exactly.
It didn't have depth.
It wasn't fulfilling my
rich.
purpose.
Yeah.
It wasn't helping me get closer to what I truly felt like my purpose was, that God put me on this earth for, which was to be a dad, just like my dad. Like, I felt like that was my purpose, to raise children with an awesome woman. And I was ready to find her. I had no idea where I would.
Yeah.
And it's funny, like I kind of like after that moment I was like, cool, like I kind of kicked women for a bit. Not that I flipped sides or anything, but I kind of was like just done with that. And then like 2 or 3 weeks later I was done, and then 2 or 3 weeks, and I was done a long time. But Mare popped in and I was like, oh, who's this little
So did you know?
honey?
When did you know that you wanted a relationship with her, a real relationship?
With Mary?
Yeah.
Man, oh, I know exactly when I knew that. We so part of my company, we take all.
It's already happening.
Are you crying? We take all the newbies out to lunch, and Mary waited to ask me out to lunch for like I was like on her like third week.
Yeah, they make
Like she
you
filled her whole.
approach these senior people, and you have to ask them for lunch.
Oh, I see.
Oh my gosh, are you kidding?
Yeah, get out of your shell. So like she got like 2.5 weeks full and was like, I think I can pencil you in on week 3. And I was like, cool.
So you knew before y'all started dating that you wanted a relationship with her?
No.
It.
I was interested. I was
Okay.
interested for sure. So anyways, we go on this lunch, and she just started talking, and the whole the lunch is supposed to be about like work, and like she's supposed to be like, hey, what tips do you have to help me get successful, and all these stupid corporate questions. But we just started talking about like our lives and our backgrounds, and that's kind of more my style. And she just started talking about her parents and the divorce, and her role with her brother, and I just like was sitting there, and I grew up like basically with the Cleavers. Like my parents have been married 35 years now. Like my grandparents were both married forever. They both had 4 kids, like tons of cousins. Like I grew up with like the all-American Leave It to Beaver family, right? So hearing about Mary's broken family and all of this adversity that I had never even thought about, and then compounded with how she reacted to it, and like I was just like blown away. And right in that moment, I was like, that's maybe my wife. Like literally, I was like, holy cow, like that's a strong woman. And I guess like I always wanted a strong woman. I don't think I ever really knew that until that moment, but I just sat there and I was in awe of her, and I was like, holy, like I can't believe she turned out the way she turned out going through all that stuff, So yeah, I was in that moment for sure. And then we went on another work secret date, and I almost threw it all out the window when she ordered sweet potato fries and dipped it in mayonnaise. Just sweet potato fries and mayonnaise. And I had to push that out, but I had to include that.
I love mayonnaise.
Oh yeah, it still kills me.
There's something to that because you're not saying it directly, but you're not the first one to say it. That there's something about the woman being vulnerable that is
Totally.
extremely attractive to the guy. Vulnerable and showing like a softer side, and that's a little surprising that you did that with him. Like you really didn't even know him. Just knowing you're not vulnerable with people like that at all. So maybe it was just a natural, like Austin does make you feel really comfortable when you're talking to him, but maybe also just the place you were at in life, you were a little bit like raw because you had just gone through a breakup. And I think when you're in that place, sometimes you just gotta start talking. You're just getting your kind of heart's kind of on your sleeve when you're in that season. So it's almost like the perfect storm. Yeah.
Agreed.
Because you had just also had this epiphany that you were looking for
Totally.
something serious.
Yeah, but like I can't emphasize it enough. I truly, while I in my head I was like, I'm done, like I want something for real. That wasn't a switch of like I'm going out looking. Like it was almost the opposite. Like
it was like just internal.
It was an internal, but I truly believe this because like for a long time, I was spending a lot of time thinking about, finding the right girl and going out and dating a lot of the wrong ones. I truly think that when I knew what I wanted, but I stopped forcing it and I stopped looking for it, boom, there she was,
I've heard that.
And truly, like, it was crazy. Like, I had this feeling, and then I was like, cool, I'm done. I'm going to stop forcing it, because I felt like a lot of my problems have been trying to force the wrong women. And she showed up. I was like, cool, who's this new chick? I wasn't like, I'm going to, like, oh my gosh, what do I need to do? And like, boom, like, it just like worked. Like, it was just.
When did you know that you loved her?
Pretty early. And in fact, I think I knew it a lot earlier than I was willing to say it. I told her it twice, actually. What?
Go ahead.
I told her it the first time, and then, what did I say? Did I take it back? I didn't take it back, but I kind of like hemmed and hawed afterwards, because she was kind of like, I thought maybe I was too early, and then I got a little nervous, and then I ended up saying it like a couple of weeks after that for sure, and I was like, no, I really do. I think I knew it super early, and it's ironic because my parents, I think y'all were just talking about this, my parents dated for like 7 months and got engaged. Like, it was crazy. And so I always like thought, like, I knew that obviously that could work and that would work out, but like something in my head like told me that it needed to take time. Like, it couldn't, like, I needed it to take time. I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was maybe a fear of commitment like we're talking about. But I said it and I felt it, but then I kind of like hemmed and hawed, because I was like, man, this is too early. I think it was a combination of like kind of society telling me I was too early to say it, but also like me thinking like, no, like, you can't possibly like actually feel this way and know this way. And then ironically enough, he was actually talking to my dad, and I asked him, I was like, how'd you know? Like, how'd you know mom was the one for you? And he said it was find the woman you can't live without. And that's how I felt about Mare. Like, and there were just like things about her, and I was like, man, like, she made me better. Like, I felt like I was like my best self when I was with her. She's weird as shit in the best way possible. Like, makes me laugh all the time. I don't know. It was just like, I think what I realized, I was like just overcomplicating the heck out of it. Like, and it was such a big, in my head, it was such a big like thing, because I only plan to ever get married once. Like, I ever want to do one honeymoon, one proposal, one ask for permission. Thank God I never have to do that again. So maybe then, I think I was just like, honestly, I kind of think like from Jump Street, I was there. And I think it was more of like me, actually, no, I know it was more of me recognizing that I was there. And like, recognizing like, whoa, I do love this woman. Like, wow, I am going to marry her, or this is who I want to marry, like, versus like, it wasn't necessarily that like I had this like aha feeling. It was, I felt the same way about her from like the moment I met her. It was more of like me recognizing what I was feeling, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. You hit on something earlier that I was also thinking, that you don't know where that fear came from after you told her you loved her, and then something in you like wanted to retreat. And
oh yeah, big time.
I mean, even I personally have had a relationship where time kept going and going, and he hadn't told me he loved me, and when push came to shove and I was upset, and why haven't you told me that you love me? His response was that he was afraid that I wasn't going to say it back. So
that's real.
I think there's
it's a lot of
fear around telling someone that you love them.
Yeah,
much
it's a big
less
statement.
allowing yourself to fall into that.
Totally.
But I do think that society has put this message out there somehow that you have to wait a certain amount of time before you can marry somebody, or before you can know that you love them.
100%.
And some of the best couples that I know went against that grain.
Totally.
They got married really fast.
Yeah. Agreed.
I mean, the best love stories that you ever hear are like what you just said about your mom and dad.
The whirlwind
where-
romance.
When
Totally.
Love at first sight, which is kind of what you're saying, that at least from your perspective as a man, it's like it kind of was love at first sight, but it took a little time to recognize that that's what it was.
Yep. Yeah,
and-
my insight on my parents, it's funny. My parents, the day before they got engaged, they broke up because my dad, I am my father's son in every way, in every good and every bad. And my dad had gotten some bad advice from his brother, and my dad had gone to him like, dude, I think Karen's like it. And he's like, dude, you just met her. Like, pump the brakes. And so my dad went to my mom and said, hey, we need to slow down. And she's like, we're not slowing down, we're done. And she dropped the hammer on him. And then he came back a day later and was like, please, I love you so much, I want to marry you. And that's how they got engaged.
Wow.
He didn't even have a ring. Nothing.
For you, what happened between the first and the second time that you told her you loved her? What changed? Because you obviously got freaked out after the first time.
Yeah,
you did
totally.
It, and you came back.
I told you, I talked to my old man. I really dude, it took some soul searching. Like, I'm not a very introspective guy. I don't know a lot of guys that are super introspective. And man, we don't know why the heck we feel things and do things. Like, we don't know that stuff. So it took me a lot of time, honestly. I had some demons that I had to work through. My dad's brother has been married 4 times, going on 5. His other brother was a bachelor forever, right? And I definitely lean after the Westlands side. So for whatever reason, I always had a fear that I would end up like my uncle. It was totally irrational because I'm nothing like him. And my dad raised me, but I always had that fear. I also always knew I have a fear of divorce too. A huge fear of divorce. It's nowhere in any of my families, both sides, extended. Nobody's ever divorced. And so that fear is super unhealthy. Like, it's super unhealthy. It's all about comparison and all that sort of stuff. But I absolutely have a huge fear of that. Yeah. So I think it was a lot of just like kind of thinking through my shit, honestly, and like working through my stuff. And it was weird because I always wanted to be married, but then when it came down to potentially settling down, I was like, holy cow, that's terrifying. And that's kind of like what we were talking about at dinner. I think the caveman complex and the spread my seed. Yeah. I think dudes are hardwired from our caveman era to want to have as much progeny as possible. And I think that's why dudes are historically we're not wired for monogamy. I think we're wired to have as many children as we can. And I think our nature is at odds, at least for someone like me, with what we want.
So what makes you think that?
I read an article on it a couple of years ago.
Okay, like Psychology Today or
something like that. Something like that. But I mean, the logic checks out. Like, if you think about the only job of a species is to survive. That's it, right? Like, the whole goal of a species is to survive.
Well, yeah, to spread your seed, definitely.
Right.
But
so species,
you're adding in that you're spreading with multiple women.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's not.
But back in the caveman, I'm not talking about like current state. Back in like the Paleolithic era, like, you wanted as many children as you could have. Literally, Adam and Eve had to populate the earth, right? They had to go and populate the earth.
Only with each other.
With each other until they had. We don't need to go down that rabbit hole because that gets a little weird. But like, think about it. Like, caveman, they were only focused on ensuring that their line lives on. The best way they do that, because one mate may be less suitable and may create a lesser offspring. So you're genetically hardwired to have as many as you could, because that would increase your chances of your DNA continuing on, right? So that's dudes. Ladies, on the other hand, were wired the opposite. They were wired to rear and love. And so I think it's crazy to not attribute the difference in our natures between men and women. And when you look at the dating world, men and women want different things. Women, I think, a lot of times want to settle down, whereas men a lot of times want to kind of proverbial spread their seeds. So I think where Mary and I ended up working out was that perfect intersection where I was like, I was at that point where I was ready to settle down. She was ready to settle down in her own way, shape, or form. I won't speak for you. And I don't know. It always kind of, the science of it, I know this is a huge reach, but like the logic on the surface kind of checked out to me, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's your own little theory.
Maybe.
I mean, there's no denying that men are biologically wired to want to spread their seed.
Yeah. We think about it all the time. All the time.
I think that your part of your theory that could be flawed is that part of that hardwiring is to spread it with multiple women. I don't know.
That's
I know
true.
that's not God's design.
No, it's not. Agreed.
So I think that could be something that is also a societal pressure,
Potentially,
or something
yeah.
that is learned.
Totally.
Because you have the whole nature versus nurture argument. Maybe
Yeah.
that comes from the nurture
Yeah.
aspect. I mean, as in this world, a pubescent boy that is having those urges is like being triggered by them by multiple women. It's not like you're seeing the same girl from the time you're 13 to you're 18. You know, all of that while that's developing, it's developing via seeing multiple hundreds and dozens of women all over the internet or whatever it is.
Yeah. You don't even want to talk about what porn does to a
mean,
dude's brain.
It's definitely an interesting idea, and I definitely think, however that desire formed, it exists in men. And you're right. In the dating world, guys are wanting different things than what girls are wanting.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, most people want to be with one person.
Yeah.
They want to get married, and they want to have a family. They
So we
want to have
wanted.
the happily ever after. So your body might say one thing at one time, but at the end of the day, that is God's design, and that's what most good people want. So when you got to that point, you knew that you loved her. The ship was sailing. You dated for a couple of years. When did you know that you wanted to propose to her? When did that start? When did that conversation and those thoughts start flowing that, okay, maybe it's time to take that next step of engagement?
Yeah, the engagement step, that took about 9 months for me to get there.
From the time you started dating?
No. After I Love You is probably when the clock started ticking. So I started thinking about us getting engaged probably a year and a half in. Part of it was just Mary and I were having those conversations. Like we were very early on in our relationship. We're like, hey, we're dating for a purpose. Like we're not dating just for shiggles here. We are dating to find a spouse.
And when y'all started dating, who and how brought up what are we? Like when did you guys? You did.
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
The dude should bring that up. Like if you let your lady bring that up, shame on you. Just like the money thing, shame on you.
I agree. I agree.
I brought that up because Mary shouldn't be the one to bring that up. That should be the dude. Just like we're the one that gets to ask out. Like suck it up. Man up, dudes. So I brought it up and kind of qualified it, and I felt like I kind of led that for the most part. What do you think?
I totally agree.
Right? Anything to add?
I'm honestly trying to remember I remember when it became we were officially gonna be exclusively
It was right before you went to
dating.
Thanksgiving. I asked you if you wanted to be my girlfriend, and you're like, you weren't ready. And then you went off with your family.
Oh yeah, so we established that I wasn't necessarily ready to be in this relationship in the sense that it was going to be serious. And it wasn't that I wasn't ready to commit to someone new. I just wasn't really ready myself to put myself out there again. I wasn't healed. I hadn't processed a lot of things. And so basically I told him that I just need time, and I'm really interested in him. I'm really enjoying getting to know him. I like all these things about him. I'm just I can't give 100% of me quite yet. And I ultimately knew that if he was going to wait around on that said a lot. And if he wouldn't, then it just wasn't meant to be.
Yeah.
So, like, it was what it was.
Yeah. My parents are divorced because my mom wanted a divorce, but he said, when I asked him something like, about a guy, like, upset, what if he's going to leave me or whatever, and my dad looked me straight in the eye and he said, I would have waited 100 years for your mother.
Mm-hmm.
If he's the right guy, he will wait.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And he totally did. And he was honestly, like, really patient. And looking back on it, I don't think I really
And I'm not a patient man either.
No, I don't think I really appreciated or, like, now I understand what a big deal that is. But at the time, I don't think. And again, that proves the point why I wasn't ready to date, because at the time I couldn't even recognize that.
Yeah. Austin, do you think that men know early on whether or not they want to marry someone? Because you obviously did.
No,
You've made that clear.
I don't. I think you do on the right one. I do.
That's what I mean. Do you think, as a generality, like, for example, I've heard people say men know within the first 6 months whether or not they're going to marry that girl. Do you think that's
like
true?
if you're still 2 years in and you're still iffy about it?
I think that's directionally accurate. Yes. I don't know that it's true. I think you could use it like as a weather vane.
Yeah.
I think the things I liked about Mary, I still like about Mary, and I knew all those things within 6 months. I think the things that I can't stand about Mary, I still can't stand about Mary, and I also knew most of those things in the first 6 months.
Yeah.
So, like, was I prepared? Like, was I like, oh man, this is who I'm going to marry 6 months in? No, I wasn't. And it wasn't that I was out, but it was very much like, we're 6 months in. Like, I'm still like feeling this out. But the things that I ended up marrying her for, I knew all of those things in 6 months, and I saw all of them, and that's why I wanted to continue that. And so I that's a weird way to answer your question, but I think most dudes 6 months in, if that's kind of the barometer, absolutely, I think have a really good sense of, is this person, every guy at least has an idea of, like, is this worth continuing? Like, they can tell, is it going to materialize into something, or is it just going to be kind of a fling? At least I feel that way.
What do you think makes guys hesitant to take the step into a commitment? So if you start dating someone and you really like them, you're vibing, things are going great, and it hasn't been that long, maybe 3 months, but it's you really like that person, like you just said, you're having those feelings of, like, this could be my wife. What do you think keeps guys from getting over that teetering point into being committed, but if they know that could lead to the ultimate commitment of an engagement?
Like, why do guys, if they see somebody as, like, worthwhile, why do they not decide to make them their person?
Right.
Like, solidify it? I think this is
because there's a lot of guys out there that will see that woman who is everything that Mary is, so strong and insightful and has depth and all the things that attracted you to her, and run the other direction as fast as they can.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think a lot of guys, some guys I think are looking for women like Mary and you. I think a lot of guys aren't. Honestly, I think some guys don't like to be challenged by the women they're with, so I think that sometimes has something to do with it. This is but I think the reality is a lot of guys are waiting for something. What if something better comes along? I think that's absolutely a thought. I think that kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier about, like, the caveman mindset of I think that's kind of a bit morphed into spread your seed into, well, what if something better comes along? And it's crappy. I've never subscribed to it, but, like, there's an adage that I've heard about amongst dudes of, like, women marry who they have to, guys marry who they get to, right? Which is just, like, very kind of chauvinistic, right? And kind of, it's honestly, in my opinion. But, honestly, I don't know. Like, I've never been one of those guys. And honestly, I don't hang out with guys like that. My best friends aren't those guys. I was the last guy to get married out of all my best friends. Second to last. and third to last. But there's like I'm thinking of like 12 guys. So
There's
give me
one still out there.
yeah. There's two. There's one still out there. And so yeah, I don't know. That's a really hard question for me to answer honestly because I don't really understand the mindset of those guys honestly.
Yeah. We've given you a lot of credit as far as like you made all these grand gestures. You pursued Mary, you committed to her, then you got over your fear, made the next commitment. Was there ever pressure in the relationship from Mary's end on you?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, the engagement, big time. Mary was ready to engage before I was.
Yeah.
And
How did that go over?
horribly. It was our first real big fight, honestly. And you know, it's more of me as a human being, less of me as a dude, but I hate being told what to do. Like, I hate it. I don't know what that stems from. I probably need to go talk to Lair about that and figure that out some more.
Me and you both.
But I cannot stand being told what to do, even when it's the best thing for me, even when it's the right thing, even when it's blank. And so the conflict really was I felt told what to do. Like, I felt told like she wanted to be engaged, and I felt told I needed to propose because it's what she wanted, which made me just kind of put my bows up, right? And that's, again, like God love him. Like, my dad's the man, and he's like the best, because I had a lot of conversations with him about this, a lot of late nights, a lot of, I don't want to be my uncle. You're not my uncle. You're not my brother. You're my kid. Like, it was truly like me getting out of my own way, honestly, as a dude. And I think truly recognizing, like, I wanted to get out of my own way. Like, I was going to him seeking, like, hey, Dad, I love this girl. She's incredible. She's all these things. Like, what is wrong with me? Like, those were the types of conversations. It wasn't like, what do I do to get out of this thing? It was like, why am I like this? Like, why is my brain acting like this? Why am I so worried about this? My dad...
What did he say? How did he answer that?
He said, son, I washed my car 7 times the day I got married to your mother. 7 times. And like they got married at like 2 o'clock. I don't know what time he started washing cars. Freaking early. But like, and that's kind of, honestly, that's kind of was like, oh, maybe that's just who I am. Maybe I'm just a worrier. Maybe that's how I'm wired. And I think that was probably 50% of my battle. Like, my brain, when I was thinking about marriage and all the great things, like, I was equally going down to all the pitfalls and all the what ifs and all the negatives that could happen with that, right? So it was just time. It was talking to my old man. It was knowing what I wanted to do. It was knowing who I was wanting to do it with. It was being confident in her. It was just, I don't know, it was a whole bunch of different kind of factors and things at the same time.
Mayor, on your end, what was making you put the pressure on him?
I feel like it was like 2 different angles. The first was kind of what Austin was saying, is he had this fear of commitment that was driven from, in my opinion, a fear of failure. So he was afraid that he was going to end up like this family member of his that has been unable to have successful marriages. And so because that happened, that in Austin's mind, that equaled he would fail.
Yeah.
And to me, it was, you know, on being able to see that from like an outsider from him, you know, this, I have much less bias to this. And I could just see how simple it really was, that like he was just scared.
Yeah.
And that ultimately, whenever we would rationally talk about things and just be like each other and calm, and I could tell he was really taking his walls down and not being fearful, there was like no hesitation in our conversations ever. And it was when you could almost see it in his head, these wheels turning of all these hypotheticals of things that were going to go wrong. I also do think another thing he touched on was, in his family, not a single person is divorced. And while that's amazing, there's really nothing negative about it. It I think added all this pressure to Austin that like, what if he's the one person that fails, like in his family? They become this failure because he doesn't have a successful marriage. And I think that really caused a lot of spiraling. And so I wasn't as concerned because I didn't see it as a true lack of commitment to me. It was more something he needed to work through, like confidence, fear. And ultimately, I had this conversation with a friend of mine, and I said, if I can't stand by him through this and help him and support him and understand and be patient, but also try to like help him and push him and challenge him for him to challenge himself and to get over these fears, then why even try to get married? Because if I can't help him through this, then what's it for? Like then we're
how
not,
can you be a strong partner in the long run?
It wasn't going to work out long term.
So that's very like bold and brave of you to do that. It probably didn't feel that way at the time, or maybe it did. I don't know, but that's absolutely not what the world tells women to do. I mean, it's like if you want to keep him around, you don't pressure him, you don't tell him what to do, don't ask what are we, don't tell them you want to get married. Like
that would have made life a lot easier.
The fear on the woman's end, or the stigma, is that that's going to scare him off, which a lot of guys would say that, or do say that that's going to scare him off. But in y'all's case, it was almost necessary, it sounds like. I mean, Austin, tell me if I'm wrong. Do you think that had she not pushed you and put that pressure on to try to push you past your fear or see past it, do you think you would have got engaged when you did, or even at all?
Yeah, I do. I do think we would have gotten engaged. I think it probably would have taken a little more time. But, I mean, I was talking about this with my dad before Mary ever brought it up. Like, before she was ever pushing me, I was talking to him about it.
Yeah, I think Austin was already on this, like, train of fear spiraling, and I, like, caught him here.
Yeah, and
I didn't. It was already running, and then by the time I had expressed, like, okay, I'm ready for this, he was really already ready, but hadn't worked through like his own things. And now in hindsight, looking back, I find it ironic that in our relationship, God basically called Austin at the beginning to wait on me, and then I had to wait on him.
Yeah. Did you ever feel afraid to do that? Like, did you ever feel afraid to tell him that you wanted to be married to him, that you wanted him to propose? That, I mean, those are very big statements. I mean, I try to imagine myself saying that. It sounds terrifying.
No, I wasn't afraid to say it at all. And I really wasn't afraid of the consequence. My biggest fear out of it was that I was going to be betrayed. So I was going to say this. I was going to say I want to get engaged. He was going to say, me too. And then he would leave me at the 9th hour, or wouldn't do it, or it would fall apart in some way. Like there would be betrayal in it. That was really my fear, more than, which probably drove me to want to say it, because I wanted an answer. Like I didn't want to like wait to be betrayed.
Yeah, you're almost like, if I'm going to get betrayed, I want to get it over with.
Yeah. And I was to a point where I was like, let's do it or not kind of thing. I also knew that, maybe this is accurate or not, I also knew at the time, like, Austin was older than me. All of his friends were married. I knew he was either going to do it or he wasn't.
Like, he ain't getting any younger.
What's your favorite stat? When I was in college, you were in middle school?
I don't know.
Weirdo.
But I just knew that he was either going to do it or not. And so, like, eventually I was going to have an answer.
Yeah.
Because he couldn't just continue to kick the ball.
So for women, how long do you think a woman in your position back then should wait before that guy commits? I mean, you were pushing him for a while, if I remember correctly, or at least that felt like a while.
Yeah.
So
and it always feels longer than it is.
You got really close to giving up.
Yeah.
And you know, that's not everyone's story. I think for some people, you have to wave the white flag at some point, and I can't keep waiting. I mean, if you were going to talk to single women out there that are in pain because they're waiting and waiting and pushing and pressuring and it's not going anywhere, when do you think they should stop waiting, or what do you think they should be looking for in the man as affirmation that the light at the end of the tunnel is there or it's not?
Yeah, I think it's really situational. I think it's a couple things. I think first you should always trust your gut. That's how I lead a lot of my decisions in this, is between prayer and just going with what I really believe to be true. I think it's situational in the sense that if you're with someone in this situation, I'm a woman, so in this situation, we're talking about a woman that's with a man, and she is getting frustrated, nothing's whatever. My biggest red flag, and when I wouldn't be waiting anymore, is when things that go with a commitment, moving in together, getting a dog together, buying a house together, are moving faster than an engagement when that's what you desire. If it is both of your desire to move in together first, fine. But if those things are coming and you're the woman sitting there saying, I want an engagement, I want to be married, and all he's coming back to you is, let's move in together, no.
Yeah.
No. You don't get...
What's the phrase?
Don't... Something about a cow.
Why pay for the cow when the milk's free?
Oh, that's not what I was thinking, but that's a more derogatory.
We're on the same page.
But basically, if those things are moving faster, he's able to give you parts of it, but he's not able to commit himself. He's able to give you the parts of what your life would look like together married, but he's not able to commit to you. And at the end of the day, there's no commitment there. And I think that's to kick the can, and he most likely is too afraid to be alone, but not into you enough to commit, or not in love with you enough, or whatever you want to say.
Yeah.
But he's not going to leave you.
Yeah.
And so ultimately, most likely in those situations, the girl's going to have to leave him.
Yeah.
I would say. So I don't know that there's a timeline. I think you got to go with your gut, and I think you got to look at their behavior.
I was going to say, I think you have a good eye for spotting guys that are committal, that will commit to you. You're a relationship girly, not like me or most of us who are serial daters.
Yeah.
But obviously this is your one and only marriage, but what is a common trait that you've seen among the men that you've been with in the past that you've had long-term relationships with? I mean, if single women who want that, who haven't ever had it, I mean, I know people who are our age in their 30s that have never had a long-term relationship or haven't found the long-term relationship. What are the main character traits that you would say they should be looking for?
So I like to kind of, not in a creepy way, but I like to really, whoever I'm interested in or initially have this draw to, I like to kind of just watch them and observe them with their people if I have the opportunity. So when I met Austin, I just got to watch him interact with his friends at work, with the people that worked under him, with the people he worked for. And I think that says a lot about who someone's genuine self is how their friends treat them, how their boss treats them. I had this situation where I saw all these different relationships, bosses, friends, Austin was the boss, these different relationships, and then also people that had left the company that he had maintained friendships with. And it just spoke a lot about who he was. And I feel like I had the opportunity to do that with all of my long-term relationships. I was able to see how they interacted with their families or how they interacted with their friends, something that really caught my eye, because I believe most men are going to be on their best behavior when you start dating, right? Yeah. And so, but if they're friends, if this is reciprocated, and for example, Austin has this group of friends that have been friends since college, and they're inseparable. I think that says a lot about who Austin is.
That's definitely something that takes patience too.
Yeah.
because you have to, as the female, you have to be patient enough to wait to see those opportunities and to watch him and wait until you decide, like, yes, this is somebody that I want to commit to and that I want to commit to me. Because that's a really good point. When the guy is trying to win you over and he's schmoozing you and taking you out, you know, it's just you and him. And he's going to put on that front or that facade or be the guy that he knows you want, but he can't be that around his friends. I mean, maybe for a night or two, but it's not, you know, that's not going to, you can only maintain that around your real friends for so long.
Well,
and then there's the other thing that if he doesn't really have friends.
Yeah.
True that. Red flag. Run. Run if he has no friends. Get out.
Yeah.
Fun fact.
Yeah.
Friendly advice.
Is there anything else that you would say, main character traits to focus on or not focus on? Like, do red flags?
Something else that I got this advice so long ago, no idea who told me, but as you're getting to know someone and as you're dating them, typically people, as you're starting to date, you discuss your past dating history, and you may not get in, like, you know, the nitty gritty, but you typically know people's past dating history. I've always taken note of how they talk about their exes. If, for me, it's like almost a deal breaker instantly, like we were talking about earlier. I'm a pretty, like, I pretty much, if there's a second date or probably like a third date, it's probably going to be a relationship, because by the first I'm probably have moved on. And I don't know if that works for everyone, but it worked for me. And it's almost like an immediate deal breaker for me if they're just going on and on and on about how all their exes are crazy, because to me that means they're crazy. Because if you continued, a lot of things, if you continue to stay with the crazy, you got issues. If every single one of your exes is crazy, you're probably the problem. Like, there's so many things. And so it was always very attractive to me if someone was talking about a past relationship and only was, like, reflecting. Like, that relationship was really hard for me, but I learned a lot about myself, and I learned about who I really wanted to be, and I learned some challenging things versus that girl's crazy.
Yeah.
That's a big one for me. It shows that they've taken time, they value relationships, and they're wanting to improve to the next, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's really good. Austin, now that we're talking about traits, what did Mary ever do or not do during your relationship that made you think she was going to make a great wife? So basically, tell the women out there, what do you guys want in a wife and not want?
What do guys want in a wife versus not want? Well, I can tell you what I wanted. I wanted somebody who was smart, who was going to challenge me, who's going to push me, who was going to raise my children the way that I wanted them to, who was the same faith as me, who was kind. That was my criteria, pretty much, right there. And Mary, like, hit all of them out of the park, and then the rest is just bonus and gravy, but that was mine. And I think that was part of my maturing process, and part of my dating life is, like, figuring out, like, different like, what I wanted in my wife, right? And intelligence for me was the one, like, that I had to have. Like, I could not marry a dumb woman. That sounds awful, but what a boring life that would be, to, like, not have no mental stimulation from your spouse. Like, that just wasn't for me, right? And Mary's brilliant, and maybe I'd sub a little bit of that intelligence for a little bit of athleticism, but her golfing ability, I mean,
'Cause you're so athletic.
she's turning, hey, careful. Look at the calves. The viewers can see the calves. They know.
The viewers.
Yeah, the viewers.
Your viewers.
No, but, like, that was it for me. So I didn't care about, like, cooking, cleaning, all that noise. Like, that's 1950s called. They want their prototypical wife back, you jerks. But no, I really, it's kind of, we've talked about it. Like, it was a combination of my childhood, my my Gambo, my grandma, those are both grandmas, are like two incredible women in their own rights. Strong-willed, strong-minded, opinionated, funny as all get out, sharp as a tack, smart as a whip. My mom's the same way. My sister's the same way, and so of course my wife is the same way. And so I don't think there's a universal fit. I think it's what each dude wants. For me, that was mine.
Yeah.
You know.
You hit on something that a lot of single people have lost focus on, which is when you're dating to figure out what it is that you want in a spouse.
100%. That's the whole purpose of dating, in my opinion. Like that's what I went into dating as. Was it's kind of like that stupid old game, Guess Who? Remember that game? With all like the people up, and it's like, does somewhere have a hat, and then they drop them down glasses. It's kind of the same deal in my head, right? Like dating's kind of a Guess Who game. It's like, okay, I want somebody who's smart. Okay, y'all sit down. You know, like, or I want somebody who's driven. Okay, take a seat. Like, right? Like it's, to me, that's what dating always was. Dating. We've talked like, right? We all base it off biblical. The word dating is never mentioned in the Bible, not once.
Yeah.
And they didn't have it in those times, right? And courtship was kind of dating at those times, but it was preordained, or not preordained, but it's kind of prearranged by families and parents. But dating's not mentioned anywhere in there. And so it's a total like blank spot of like nobody knows what to do. There's no divine plan that we can all follow to go find the perfect person. And so in my head, because dating's never mentioned, but marriage is, I was like, okay, well, that's the purpose.
Yeah.
I'm gonna date to marry. Like, and the purpose of dating is whittling down and filtering down into, and eventually I got to that point, and I think that's where that decisiveness was that we were talking about, like way back in the beginning of this thing, where that point of clarity, I think that's what it was. I think my clarity was what I was looking for. The clarity was I knew what I wanted. Now I just need to go find it.
Yeah.
Right now, the process of finding it's a whole different. For dudes, it's a whole different, and that's where I think guys and girls are different. I think girls know what they want way sooner than guys, way sooner, and I think guys have to go kind of get in the mud and get in the shit, and we got to learn lessons the hard way to figure out what we want. But women, I think, are a lot more introspective. I think they think a lot more about this stuff. They mature earlier. We know that. So I think women know this stuff, and which is why women get so much more frustrated with dating than men, because they know what they want and they're like, I just need to find it. And guys are like, this is great. I'm getting to try all these different ice cream flavors, figuring out which one I love. So I think that's why guys like dating and women hate dating. You know?
Yeah.
Just thought.
No, I mean that's really something that I haven't considered before at all, but I think it makes sense that there's a lot of people that are of age where they would like to be married now, or at least with that person that they know they want to marry, and they're going, I've dated all these people, why the hell haven't I found the person yet? But if you're not dating with intention, where the point of dating isn't to just go in the ice cream shop and try all the flavors and then leave.
Yeah, exactly.
It's to figure out what you want and then choose it, and then continue to choose that every single day. But people are not doing that. They're dating for fun, and it's fun to be with someone and have a good time, and then go, well, what's inside this door? What's around this corner?
Totally.
Let's go to the frozen yogurt place next door. Let's
Yeah.
abort
Let's go
mission
try
on the
that.
ice
Let's
cream.
try the
Maybe a
kind.
custard place stops up. Well, look out. Maybe a Shakes.
Shakes frozen
God
custard.
forbid a
Yeah.
Shakes pops
Maybe
up, and
you
that's
get real
all out the
wild and
window.
Go into a cookie shop or
Plug
a
for Shakes.
crumble cookies
If you're ever
or
in
something.
Fayetteville, drink Shakes.
What's the order? What's your order? At
What's
Shakes?
my order?
Oh, yeah.
I have a lot of weird ones.
Extra strawberry juice.
Yeah.
Weirdo.
Ew.
It's gross.
There's a lot of
It's
weird
freaking gross.
Anyway, Shakes on College Avenue in Fayetteville.
My
Get it.
first job ever.
Delish.
Actually really good.
10 out of 10.
Austin, you've talked a lot about your family, your parents and your grandparents. And I think that it's amazing and it's a huge blessing. I know you know that you have
Yeah,
that
no
you
doubt.
have those role models and that you have the huge family that you do. Unfortunately, that's uncommon or less common than
50%.
Yeah, at least. I mean, and then you have the percentage of the ones that stayed married that are not a healthy, not healthy marriages, not role models of parents and things like that. What do you think is important for men to do to combat that if they grew up without a father as a role model or without parents, without two happily married parents to look up to? For a man, because you're emphasizing that, having these male role models was critical, absolutely critical in you getting to the point of marriage.
Yeah, and it wasn't just my dad. Like I'm a big subscriber of You Are Who You Hang Out With. I will beat that into Zoe's head and any other children we're lucky enough to have. You absolutely are who you hang out with, right? Yeah. And so, and I say that in this regard because if your dad's not there, cool, talk to one of your boys, like, or have a mentor, or get plugged into a Bible study at church where you have guys from all different walks of life, like 20 years your senior, 10 years your senior. Like, you got to have different kind of. I love my community because I have different ages and stages all across the board, like pouring into me and giving me advice, and different folks I can talk to. And I guess I gotta substitute kind of the blue hairs now that Papa's gone, but I'll work on that. But I mean, if you don't have a dad to look up to, that's gonna be tough. I think the first thing you have to do is you have to recognize that we all bring our parents into the relationships we go into, right? Because subconsciously or consciously or subconsciously, those are the ideals of a relationship burned into our heads just based on witnessing that for our entire life, right? And so I got recommended this book by a coworker that I was super grateful for, and it was actually that same sentiment for parenting. And it was the idea of, you will be the parent that your parents were unless you take active decisions to do things differently. Yeah. Same deal with relationships. Yeah. You will be I will be my father the way he was to my mother to Mary. And if that's a good thing, great. If that's a bad thing, I better know about it. And vice versa. Mary is going to be her mother to her father to me, unless she, tweaks it. And so I think you got to know that, number one. You got to decide, is that who you want to be? Number two, and if not, number three, then you got to figure out, how do you want to show up? What are you going to do about it? Like, I think it's a lot about just being aware of it. Like, just the self-awareness of all of that, knowing how you're going to show up, knowing how you want to show up, and then figuring out kind of that difference between the two. Yeah. I think
it's important somehow, some way, for both men and women, if you don't have a role model of a parent, to find mentors and role models, and even people that are your same age that might be married, that are the fairy tale couple. I mean, especially for men, because you can't lead blindly. That's why you guys are on this podcast, because majority is going to be talking to single men, because those are the people that are out there. Those they're the fish in the pool, but we can't just fly blind.
Got you. Co-pilot.
So, I mean, men have to do the same thing. If their intention is to one day be married and find a wife, well, who's going to teach you how to do that? It doesn't come innately, and you don't just pull it out of your butt. And it's not on TV. It's not on media. You're going to have to find a way. And if you're not a person of faith, or you're not plugged into a church, there's going to have to be a place that you find men who are also living that way, as a loyal, admirable husband, someone living an honorable life.
Totally agree.
Can I mention something that I think, since out of the two of us, I'm the one that comes from the family that has divorce, and has also not just divorce, but also people that have like lost spouses young. And I think something that Austin and I probably, like, if we were to be able to do this again, the two of us together, would, in hindsight, do differently. And something that we were able to do before we had with Zoe was, Austin and I spent like a significant amount of time in therapy working through our individual like burdens of what we brought to the table. And was like really made self-aware so that we could bring those biases, all those trauma, all these things, what dysfunction we thought was functional, and like relearn it to bring into parenting with Zoe. I really regret not having done that for our marriage, having done the same thing. Like we did premarital counseling, but we definitely both didn't take it as seriously as we wish we would have, which is really why we put all this effort into going into therapy before Zoe, because we just really wanted to be more prepared. We were ready for Zoe. We wanted to prepare for Zoe. We were ready for marriage, but we didn't prepare for marriage. And I think I would encourage people to seek out someone to help you work through. My biggest thing was recognizing dysfunction is not function. Like that was something that I had to really unlearn.
Yeah, because you guys had some bumps
Oh yeah.
in your first year of marriage in particular.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you think you could have or would have done differently while you were dating to make that first year a little bit easier?
What I just said. I mean, that's a big one.
Yeah.
The world not shutting down.
Yeah. There's one for me. Yeah, COVID laid
Yeah,
a
and your
Cleveland
first year of
steamer.
marriage is tough.
Yeah, let's talk about that. In our first year of marriage, we were locked in the house for 24/7.
Yeah.
Literally did not get to see another human being for a year. Like, woof. But to Mary's point, there was an exercise that we, it was the one, of course, the one premarital counseling class we missed. I think we were on a trip or something. It was the expectations class. And expectations, when I say expectations, it covers everything from, because I'm a dude, I'm going to start with sex, but financial, emotional, how often are we going on date night? Who's doing the dishes? Who's doing the laundry? Who makes the bed? Like literally, it was Watermark Church, quick plug for their Emerge program because it was spectacular, and we still use it. We still go to our pamphlets and binders, and at least I do. I think you do too, just for knowledge and advice on how to work through things. But expectations, it was the most important class, and we missed it, and it continues to rear its ugly head today, even today, and we will realize. Mary will have one expectation for one circumstance, I'll have another, and we won't realize that we have different ones until we're knee deep in an argument about it.
Yeah.
And it could have been solved so much cleaner if we would have spent the time, been at the class, and recognized that we had gaps between our expectations. And it's something, honestly, quite honestly, we haven't even talked about this, but we probably need to do now that we have a kid, because there's a lot of expectations around parenting and how to raise a kid and, you know, what we want to teach. And anyways, that would have made a world of difference.
This also goes back to what you said at the very beginning when we started. What all that really is that Austin just said is communicating. We didn't communicate our expectations to each other.
Yeah.
We didn't communicate well.
Indeed.
Yeah. Communication is another podcast too. We got a lot of shows to cover.
A lot of shows.
There are a lot of people who are single people who are very jaded at this point. I would even say that about myself to an extent. And they're jaded in the sense that a lot of people say they don't want marriage, but maybe it's just because they're afraid of it, or they feel that they'll never get it. They'll never get there. So they're maybe subconsciously trying to become content with the idea that they may never be married.
Okay.
What would you guys say to those people that now that you're on this side of it?
You have a really sad picture of what marriage, like
Totally.
the world has given you a horrible picture of what marriage is my assumption. If people are very quick to be like, oh, I would never be married, I don't want marriage. You most likely have been shown or have been in or have seen a really horrible example of a marriage, or not the type of marriage we experience. And so I think that's my biggest, is they just unfortunately haven't had the opportunity or haven't seen it or whatever that is.
I think that their outcome of that, like the equation gets them to thinking that continuing to just date and live a single life is going to be better than marriage.
Because they have this, they don't want that kind of marriage, and neither do I. I don't want a marriage that looks like on TV where they nag at each other and the husband doesn't come home till 8 o'clock and the mom takes care of the kids 100%. Like, no, I don't really know anyone that wants that.
Yeah, I'm with Mare on this one. It's just sad. Marriage is, to me, how do I even put this? It's different because we have a faith behind it. So we believe marriage is truly ordained and a sacrament and something that brings us probably as close to God as anything that could, honestly. But outside of that, which is crazy to say, outside of that, that's just dating is cool. I can't imagine being in something long term that somebody could get, like, just walk out of one day. I don't know how you could actually commit to somebody if there was always an option just to walk out. I don't know how you could be your real self. I don't know how you could be your best self. I don't know how you could actually open up with your deepest, darkest fears if somebody had the option to just say, oh, that's too much, I'm out. Sure. Right? I don't know. So I guess for me, I don't know how people remain fulfilled just dating. And so your option is either continue to date and be unfulfilled, or what? What's the other option? Right? You go get married or be single, I guess. I guess there's 3 options. Yeah. Be single and be, assuming, lonely and unfulfilled, date and be unfulfilled, or what's the third option? So I don't know. I guess it's hard for me to understand because my biggest fear is being alone. Like, I don't want to, like, dying alone is like my biggest fear. So maybe that's why we were quicker to commit, or I was quicker to commit. Not that quick, but I just, the jadedness, what's there to be jaded about? Like, no offense, but shouldn't people who are dating be jaded about dating? Like, why are people who are dating jaded about marriage?
Yeah.
Like, honestly, like, you guys haven't experienced marriage, so what are you jaded about? Yeah. Like, you're jaded by your dating experiences. You're jaded by guys ghosting. You're jaded by guys hooking up and then never calling you back. Like, you're jaded by dudes treating you like a piece of meat, but, like, why are you jaded about marriage then?
Blame it on marriage.
Right. Like, what does that have to do with marriage? Like, those guys aren't married to you, they're dating you. Like, if you don't like dating, then why are you going to be like, screw marriage? Like, logically, I guess that I don't really follow how bad dating situations leads to a jading of marriage. So maybe, I don't know, maybe you can teach me, and then.
I mean, I think people become jaded in the sense that when you continue to be hurt and disappointed over and over and over again, you continue this cycle of putting yourself out there, catching feelings, putting your trust in someone, expecting that that's going to lead to a commitment, and then all of that comes tumbling down and you get crushed. And then you recover, and then you do it again, and you recover, and you do it again. But
it's exhausting, there's no doubt.
It's exhausting, it leaves scars, and it diminishes.
And how do you get married
hope
if you can't date? So then naturally the jade becomes towards marriage.
Is this, we don't want to be married, is it also possibly this defense mechanism because they've been just kind of like put in tumble dry in this like horrible dating cycle?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's because you become so fearful of being hurt again that you think, well, it's less risky to put myself out there and to get hurt dating somebody. It's much more risky to do that within the commitment of a marriage. So I'm just going to stay back here. That way, when I do get hurt, it's not as catastrophic as if I was over that hurdle of being married, because your whole life is is merged. And you know, you bring the law into it, you bring money into it,
Yeah.
you bring kids into it.
I love you
Stakes
so
are
much.
a
I want to
lot
bring
higher.
the government into this. No, but that's a good point. I mean, I guess the truth of the matter is, you got to risk it for the biscuit. Like, if it's anything worth having is scary, right? Like, if you're jaded on dating, you're never getting married. Sorry. Like, that's the reality. Like, if you're done dating, you're not getting married unless you go order one out of a catalog from China. That's it, right? So, you know, I get it. It's scary. I think guys are probably a little more desensitized to this because guys get shut down from Jump Street. Maybe if women had to ask guys out on dates, they would be less worried about this because they'd be more used to like rejection. Like, I truly think guys are more used to rejection because yeah. But like, I truly think like guys are like more used to that because like we have to ask girls to dances, we have to ask girls on dates. Like, we like carry that the whole time. So, anyways, the jadedness. I don't. I feel like the jade is towards the wrong. The energy is towards the wrong element. You shouldn't be jaded towards marriage. You should be jaded towards your dating life. Like, take ownership of that.
Yeah.
If your dating life sucks, that's on you.
Yeah.
Like, you're either picking wrong people,
I wouldn't say it's always on you.
not always.
It's not 100%, but it is.
But is
partially.
there always responsibility for you to reflect?
But yeah, you can learn. You
improve
can be like,
yourself,
okay,
yes.
what do I advance? What do I get better from next time?
Right.
I don't know. I feel like the energy's focused on the wrong output.
Yeah. Would you confirm that now that you're on this side of it, that marriage is better than?
Oh yeah. On its
Dating
worst day, on its worst day, it's 100 times better. Like, I get to do life with Mary. Like, that's awesome. Like, I get to, everything that I experience with her, right? All of the fears and stressors of life I have, I get to share that burden with her. And she's there to listen. And she's my best friend. And we get to do whatever we want together. And we are our family now. Like, we both cleaved off our families and we are our family now. And that's awesome. Like, that's like so much cooler than dating. That's like, it's like adulting, right? I don't know.
Is it though? I feel like
that's my
part of
personal opinion.
Part of what you're describing, like the real life fairy tale. I mean, that's, to me, that it has an innocence to it. It's like,
Yeah.
adulting is hard. Adulting to me is hard and cold, and it's like
Yeah.
dirty and messy. That's the dating world. That's being out there and just like.
Yeah. But I guess maybe I don't know. Maybe it's not adulting. I don't know what it is.
I mean, it is, but there's
like
an innocence to it that, like, the child in you that wanted that fairy tale ending gets to live that way. You know, gets to live it out as an adult, obviously.
No. I know what you mean. Yeah, maybe that's not right, but I don't know. It's a total upgrade. My buddy Cody told me that. He was married to his high school sweetheart. And when I proposed to Mary, we went to the LA Fitness it was LA, and we worked out and we had lunch, and he was telling me, he's like, marriage is a total upgrade if you marry the right person. And it really is. Like, he nailed it. Like, if you marry the wrong person, no, it will be hell. It will be hell. It is the single most important decision I've ever made, bar none. And that's honestly why I took as long as I did to make mine, to decide to propose, because I was convicted that I was going to do it once, and I wanted to make sure that I was going to make the right decision. And when you're looking at a decision that literally, in my head, you can never make again, you have one shot at it, that's pretty crippling for anybody. I don't care who that is. Anyways, total upgrade.
Yeah.
It's total upgrade. It's for the right person. They make you 100 times the man that you thought you could be. You find another juice, another level that you didn't think you had. Like, it's just, it's just different, and I don't know how to describe it, but total upgrade.
It's very inspiring. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
What is something that you regret or would do differently in your dating life?
You
The
first.
deep breath is everyone's initial response.
You first. I'll go. I'll let you think. I would have taken more swings. I would have taken more shots. I would have risked it. I would have asked more girls out on dates. Because what do you have to lose, honestly, right? I think the sooner I would have done that, the more I would have like honed in, the quicker I would have honed in. I think it would have been fun. I think at the time I had a ton of anxiety about dating as a dude, but I think dating is actually really fun if you go about it the right way, and you can actually really have a good time getting to know a lot of different people and all that. I think I kind of missed out on that. So yeah, I would have just kind of let it rip, and because like I never. Like, Mare was my 5th girlfriend, and I never really, like, dated. Like, I was kind of a relationship guy, too, right? And not that, like, I regret that now, but I think that, like, if I would have done that, I would have just experienced, like, a different side of that, you know? So, yeah, I would have said, let it rip, and quit caring, like, care less about what people think. If they say no, who cares? Never talk to them again. Pound sand, their loss. Like, I don't know, I would just let it rip.
Okay.
What about you, babe?
I think if I could go back, I would be quicker to cut things off faster. Like even more like the longer term things, cut things off so I would have had more opportunities, and I just when it these long-term relationships, there were times where I knew they probably should have ended, and the longer those go on, there's the potential for things to go wrong, for these things to go wrong and cause problems, and then to be brought into your next relationship.
Yeah, more baggage.
Yeah, yes. And there were things I saw that, mainly if he wanted to, he would. And I was expecting something, wanting something, needing something, said I was going to get it, never came. And I should have just taken it for what it was.
Yeah.
And she's away.
Okay.
Good time.
Well, Zoe says that's the end of the show. That's it. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Nat.
Thank y'all so much for tuning in to today's episode of That's What He Said. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did, and I hope you're taking away something valuable that will benefit your dating life. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, please give this show a follow, rate, and review. And if you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe, like this video, and most importantly, comment below because I want to hear what you said. See you next time.